This women are host bodies thing is fucking crazy. But you know, I created a post, you know, when Adriana Smith, before that even became news, International Women's Day, yeah? I made a post about that. And I showed an article. I showed the article of the mindset of where the fuck we were going. That article was like from 2022. Like, so wasn't that when Biden was the president? Like, what does the president, is it going to change? Because I want to just say how fucking deep the rabbit hole goes. Let me show you something. Now, there are many segments of history, and I will actually add the post that I'm talking about that I posted, that I put up for International Women's Day, yeah, where I showed that article. So you guys can go back and see that there's even more articles, medical journals. But this right here is something we don't really talk about. And this is where, when we talk about white supremacy, we can't not talk about Christianity. If you're familiar with this, this is what's called the witch's hammer. Now, the real translation, you know, is like those that we hold down, evildoers, right? But it's also been associated with women, to hold down the women. So think about witchcraft. If you're talking about women who are creating something, that might be another life. Now, where that's important is for a few reasons. So a lot of times people will see this image and they'll think this is a broom. But the reality is this is something, it's called a distaff. The women of the clans across the world, you know, before they were states like what is now known as Germany, which was only created, you know, more recently, 1948, 1946. So on the ceiling of an old cathedral in this location here, this is there. Why it's important is, first of all, we see an image of a woman on a broom, so we automatically think witch, right? But the reality is that this is called a distaff side. So on the distaff side, the women were weavers, right? They wove their clan families. The women held down the lands, and through the birth of the women's side, you know, that's why we have something like the monarchy, the matrilineal side. But the reality is that the weaving tool was created to literally produce a document showing the next generation from the women's side are the people that are supposed to be in charge. That goes for a lot of culture. Just like they say it's Roman or it's this, you got to first understand, like when they say it's Greek, it's Roman. When we're talking about etymology, we're talking about the nuanced words, right? That continuously and perpetually just get recycled and then, like, you know, redeemed popular by, well, what is popular? You know what's popular? Only those people who were wealthy could publish publications. Only those people who were wealthy could build schools, who could then attend to those schools, because you had to have money, yeah? And so the reality is, thoughts like this, the association of the distaff side, most people, even when they do their genealogy, they only focus on the patrilineal side. But in America, a lot of people don't know that in 1630, a guy named Sir William Berkeley, or sometimes he's called Barclay. Sir William Barclay, he created a law that we in America are taught that's called the one-drop law, but that's not the truth, you see? Because the law is called Partus sequitur ventrem. And if we think about what that means, it's comes from the belly, from the womb. So he made a law that every child that came from a womb took the status of the women. And this was really simply so that the kids that a plantation wealthy, you know, person who was a father of America, even in making slaves that they sold for 4 times the amount of money, which is well documented. I think it's really important to remember that we do come from the women. It's also very important to remember that the women, when they created their cloths and all of the what is now called art, you know, like even Noah's Ark. An ark is a covenant. Was it a boat? Was it a piece of paper? It's definitely made of oak. My word as strong as oak, tree, tea. All of these words and these histories, they're right there on the tip of our tongue. And the older that we go in the history, it doesn't seem like they want us to really learn much more before about 1850s, yeah? But we need to go older. We have to go all the way back. When we talk about the Germanic tribe, we talk about the Romans. There's like 32 Roman tribes, 5 rustic, 7 other rural tribes. Those were tribal people. When we say Roman, we need to understand what we're talking about. When we say German, we need to understand what we're talking about. The word Germani was a word that the people called themselves. So we are the original people. Now, where is that so familiar to me? Sitting with First Nations people, talking about how they are the original people of the land, that they've been here for 32 generations. And we've got the patriarchs and the Puebloans. These words throughout history have changed. Different people have become different people by mixing different people. They've always held the women down. You know, sometimes I think in the biblical terms, it's just a thought that I have. You know, why would you bring frankincense and myrrh to a child? Well, it's not the meaning of the oils. I mean, that's actually what they actually used, and even in lavenders, they would actually coat bodies, you know, that had passed on, and then we had wakes. You know, we understand what happens when we pass away and what happens to our bodies. We break down. And so it's like, you know, sometimes why are we worshiping a tool of conquest and it's lynching? We're really worshiping a lynching a crucifix, which, you know, when you think about it and you see all these, if you're like me and you read a lot of old documents, you'll see a lot of like the world with like this cross on the top of it. You know, it's no different than this sword and the stone. You know, instead of it being a crucifix, what if it is a sword, you know, to conquest the world? You know, and that's why looking at things from multiple perspectives, but seeing people, grown-ass people in this year, in this era, talk about how women are hosts, and this, it really goes back to this document, which I did read on live, and I probably should download and try to post this so that you guys could listen to it, because I know a lot of people don't like to read things, but it's incredibly imperative because Benjamin Franklin literally identifies who exactly the white people are. Here, I'll show you the document. And then I will go and download my live where I read it to a friend of mine because we were talking about this. And it's going to tell you exactly why they're doing what they're doing. The polypus. He talks about the polypus, meaning like, you know, you can, a person that's of origin that's already been kind of really, really colonized, right? And then they're really involved in the behavioral tool of the church and those conditionings. When they make more babies, they'll be, you know, all Americans. There's actually a papal that the church wrote that actually says that if we can get the parents to convert, then it'll just be that much easier for the children, even though it's a little bit more like seance-y stuff. It's literally more like, you know, actually spelling, you know, like spelling bee. What's the B stand for? Well, they'll tell you that it's, you know, buena, or good spelling. But when you go back older, that word literally means to call or conjure. The B word, belevere, means to call or conjure. So what we say literally is a spell, and what a woman produces, that's why they call her witch. And that all came from a super drunk, abusive dude who wrote this fucking witch's hammer that was like, we could set out and just hurt people and harm people, and we'll just call them evildoers. What's the word evil backwards? It's live. They have been doing this for centuries. Project 2025 is not new. It does not include women. And just like Native people were deemed as art, which could not own property or wealth in the 1898 Felix X. Cohen Black's Law, I mean, there's rabbit holes we need to go down. So follow me if you'd like to get into it. I'm writing a book.